Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. I'm so grateful to have you here, sharing in this space of growth, healing, and transformation. If you've already subscribed to Loving Everything, thank you for being a part of this beautiful community. Your support means so much, and together, we're creating a space where love in all its forms can be explored and embraced. As you listen to this episode, if it resonates with you, I invite you to like the video and share it with anyone who might benefit from the insights we're diving into today. These conversations are all about expanding our capacity to love ourselves, each other, and the world around us. And if you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to explore my other episodes where we journey into love's deepest, most unconditional forms. Each one is an invitation to reconnect with the parts of yourself that are waiting to be seen, healed, and loved. So thank you for being here. Let's begin. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
It's so wonderful to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it too. I can't wait to get to know you better. And I also can't wait to have this conversation with you. I feel like I'm going to learn so much. I feel like everyone else is going to learn so much. So we'll get started. You were already saying some stuff while we were off air, and I just wanted to make sure that we captured it all here. So I appreciate that. Yeah. So we'll start with, where were you born, or where did you grow up?
I was born in the Seattle area, in a city called Bellevue. It's grown quite a bit since I was born.
Yes.
So I was born in the Seattle area, and I grew up there. I've spent most of my time kind of living in the Pacific Northwest. I did live in Germany a few times during and after college.
Wow.
And
where in Germany?
I lived in Munich and also in Freiburg, so southeast and southwest Germany.
And do you speak the language?
I did. I studied German in college, and when I was working there after college, I was fluent. But now my German is very poor.
Because you don't have anyone to practice with.
Yes, and it's been 26 years since then. So
I bet it would come back pretty quickly, though.
There's
an
understanding.
Vacation.
Yeah. There's an understanding, but my speaking is very kind of stunted.
Yeah. That makes sense for sure. Okay. Very interesting. Okay. So can you share a childhood memory that has shaped who you are today?
Yeah, I can. And it's the first thing that comes to mind, actually. When I was very young, I loved animals, and there were allergies in the family, and so we didn't get animals until I was a little bit older, kind of a preteen. But I remember my neighbor had a golden retriever, and this dog and I became very bonded in the sense that we would spend all our time in the summers together. And this was just the neighbor's dog. And I remember a vivid memory that I have is that this dog and I once were rolling on the grass together. I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, just rolling on the grass and like loving life and just feeling so expansive and joyous. And ever since then, I have just realized, I think as I get older and older, how much, how important it is to experience moments of joy and all of the things and the layers that get in the way of us experiencing joy.
Wow.
So very joyful moment for me. Yeah, very simple, just spending time with a pet, someone else's pet on the grass. But yeah, pretty magical.
Well, I think that animals teach us unconditional love. Right? Yeah. They are voiceless in some ways, but they also are our first introduction to really what love is all about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I call them fur angels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have stories to tell, and they're such energetic, kind of emotional companions.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they they build a contract with us.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much to learn by actually not speaking through them. Yeah. They don't speak a language, but they have a language in which they communicate.
Yes.
And so, yeah, and animals, I've learned over the years, communicate through emotions. And humans also communicate through emotions, but we hide our emotions, thinking that, they're positive or negative. And the reality is they're not either. They're a method of communication and information. So, yeah, so animals are a huge teacher in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I have a menagerie in my house.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
What did you love doing as a child, and how has that shaped your path as an adult?
I think there were a couple of things that I enjoyed as a child. The first was I really enjoyed traveling with my family. My dad had a job which enabled us to travel maybe semi-annually to different places in the U.S. And I think that really built a foundation of curiosity and adventure for me. And so that traveling has definitely shaped my perspective as I've gotten older, and it's something that I prioritize in my life. And I think the other thing that has always been a priority for me, but has not always been possible, is being physically active. So I was very active when I was young. I had an older brother who always pulled me into the sports that he was participating in, and parents who were very encouraging of me to play different team sports and do different activities. And that has remained consistent throughout my life, and to come to really, through yoga and studying this amazing body that we live in, understanding how movement is critical in terms of moving energy and kind of healing ourselves. So, yeah. So traveling and movement, I think, are two big things.
Would you say that yoga is your favorite way of moving energy?
I think it has evolved over the years. I think yoga for me is such a deep dedication. And I don't know that, in all honesty, I don't know that it's my favorite, but it is a way to dedicate like my whole being to something bigger and greater. So I like to complement yoga with different types of movement, whether it's just going for a long walk, or if it's taking an online high-intensity interval training, or doing some strengthening, anything to kind of complement intuitively what my body needs. But yoga for me is a very deep and dedicated whole life practice. Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah. I think that opens up a little bit of a story of how I got into.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I might have already had the question down, but it's okay. Jump into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a bit of a long story.
That's
and
okay.
I think it eventually kind of unfolds to modern day. Making myself sound ancient in that reference, but that's okay. I can be ancient on a soul level. It's all right. So I mentioned that movement was a part of growing up in childhood and kind of playing sports and participating in sports. And as I was a preteen, so kind of around 11, 12-ish, I remember helping my mom at the kitchen, just making like a salad for dinner. And I was standing at the kitchen, on the kitchen floor. It was a hardwood floor. And I remember how much my back was aching while I was just standing there for maybe 5 minutes while I was making the salad. I very specifically remember it was romaine leaves and the direction that I was facing and all of that. And I was just having very deep aching pains in my low back, kind of around my sacrum and lumbar spine area. And it would come and go, and then eventually it just came, and I just had regular pain. And so my mom took me to an osteopath, and he just kind of visually looked at my spine and said, oh, well, you have scoliosis, and it looks like you also have this spinal condition called spondylolisthesis. And it's a fancy way of saying that your vertebrae either are not properly growing, or they're not properly formed, or they're not properly stacking.
Wow.
And so he kind of...
How old were you?
I was 11, 12-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. So he kind of patted me on the shoulder and said, try to keep your core muscles strong and don't do gymnastics, and good luck to you. And sent me off to Children's Hospital in Seattle to get like a plastic corset back brace to wear to kind of help.
I learned one too.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. How long did you have to wear yours for?
I wore it for a few years, but I didn't love wearing it. And I didn't find that it really helped me. I remember that I had, at one point in time, I had a grocery bagging job just as a teenager, and I was lifting groceries, and of course that was irritating and aggravating my back. And so I wore this back brace, and it would poke out the back of my pants and create like this really, really strange angle when I would bend over, and I didn't have much flexibility and all of that. And so I didn't enjoy wearing it, and eventually I left that job. It's like clearly not the right role for me. And so fast forward to kind of, in and out of physical therapy and doing some yoga-like poses in physical therapy from that time of being a preteen. I got into my 20s, early 20s, and I started having debilitating pain. So I started having herniated discs in my neck and back, also called bulging discs. And the first time it happened, it was excruciating pain. It happened in my neck. And I was at work, and I instantly knew, like, oh, this is something terrible is happening to me. So I drove myself home. I got home and I laid down on the floor, and I couldn't get up. I was in so much pain. So I called my parents, and my dad came over and took me to the ER, and they gave me some medication and just to deal with the pain and kind of figure out what was going on until I could see an osteopath or a sports medicine doctor to kind of figure out what was going on. And I went to a wonderful doctor, a sports medicine doctor, who gave me prednisone and an MRI, and that kind of took off the acute episode of pain where I could get back to moving a little bit and wasn't dependent on someone else to do all the things, drive me around, make food, all of those kinds of things. And that was really the first episode of many episodes of herniated discs. And so what would happen in my 20s was that I would have a herniated disc, I would be on prednisone, I would taper off prednisone, and then I would take muscle relaxants. And then I would taper off the muscle relaxants in physical therapy until I was, I could hold my head upright and not be in pain when I was riding in a car and all of that. And then I would just get by on ibuprofen because I was still in pain, amount of like muscular pain, but not necessarily nerve compression and disc pain in my neck. And so I was on this cycle of prednisone, muscle relaxants, ibuprofen, and then I'd have another disc bulge. Muscle relaxants, prednisone, ibuprofen, another disc bulge. And so this was happening about 4 times a year. And I was working full time in the corporate environment during this time. So I was taking time off of work. And during this time, I was, all of the effects of this medication were starting to affect my body.
Of course.
Yeah. So I started developing serious anxiety to the point of having panic attacks. I had developed an ulcer. And so layer on the levels of pharmaceuticals and medication, and there's no getting better.
Yeah.
And one of the doctor that I had originally seen in the first bout of this bulging disc episode, she had a psychologist, a behavioral psychologist in her office who would help people understand biofeedback in their body.
Uh-huh.
Wonderful man, and we're still friends to this day. And he just suggested, kind of during this process, hey, have you ever thought about yoga? And I thought back to all of this childhood movement that I had done of sports and activities, and I thought, yoga's way too slow for me. Like, this is not, it's not accessible to me. For one, I'm having a really hard time driving a car. Bumps in a driveway were just excruciating levels of pain. How would you expect me to go to a yoga class? And there was just something within me that was like, just try it out. And I think there's always been this curiosity, which kind of relates to travel in some way, like this little adventurous, curious aspect inside of like, well, what if I tried that? And so I tried. I initially started with Bikram hot yoga. And the first few classes, it was like, what are people doing here? This is nuts. I don't understand what people are doing. Why the heat? All the questions. But I kept going because I was like, I can't just quit after a few times in this class and say, well, it's not working, because I was desperate.
Yeah.
I was in my mid-20s at the time, and there was no prognosis to get better from this.
Yeah.
It was only going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And very slowly, I started to feel better. I started to have a little bit more mobility in my body, a little less, as I've learned over time, a little less acidity, a little less inflammation in my body. Mm-hmm. And by that just sliver at a time, my body started asking for eating different foods. And then it started asking for doing different things. And I'm happy to talk about what that means, of like my body was asking me for that. But as you start to move through that journey of feeling better, you actually want more wholesome things in your environment, in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, because those things help you realize that healing is absolutely possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so slowly I started feeling better, and that led me to a variety of things. It led me to an acupuncturist and a conversation with an acupuncturist asking me about what inflammatory foods I might be eating, to eliminating those inflammatory foods, to working with the naturopath who was in the same office as this woman, and the naturopath slowly kind of nursing me back to health after this anxiety medication that I was on and had detrimental side effects from. And I mean, all of these souls and healers and suggestions that were along the way of that path mm-hmm. just led me to feel like this experience that I'm going through in deep pain is eventually going to be a teacher for me. And as we were speaking, in the moment of that deep pain, in the moment of my partner having to lift my head out of bed on a towel because I couldn't lift my own head off the pillow, those are moments when, if someone says to you, this is your teacher, you would really want to kind of, like punch that person in the face.
Push it away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, really, this is not, how could you say something so cruel to me at this moment in time? Mm-hmm. But when you start to slowly kind of come back to yourself through healing and the amazing people who can come around you and help as a healing team, you start to realize, oh, actually, this is my greatest teaching. And if it weren't for this, I wouldn't be on this incredible trajectory that I'm now going to be on. So, yeah.
And also, along that same vein, it's it keeps you in a victim mindset if you can't see the spiritual gift or lesson in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It keeps you immobilized from making any change. You're just, I guess you could say it's deep surrender to the process and acceptance, but it's almost as if you have apathy for your situation, right?
Yes.
Because you've given up. You've given up on anything being different. And as you were speaking and telling your story, I was inwardly nodding in approval because I had no idea that you and I had so much overlap. While you were learning this at 20, I was not learning this at 20. I had no idea that I had the injury that I had. Well, it wasn't on my radar. How about that? But I also had scoliosis. I was encouraged, we'll say mostly forced by my mom to be on a competitive cheerleading team, which required gymnastics.
Okay.
Had a gymnastics injury, shook it off because there was too much going on at home for me to ask for my needs to be met at that time.
Yeah.
And I found out by being a personal trainer, I owned a personal training company in my late 20s, and my business partner made friends with a chiropractor. And I had been to chiropractors because of the scoliosis, but someone actually did a full scan, a full x-ray. And I was 28 when I found out that I had 3 bone spurs in my neck, and my neck was starting to fuse. And that the reason why my mom would always say, Andrea, tuck your chin in, was because my neck was actually straight and it was forcing my head outwards. I've also had times in my life where I've had to wear an entire neck brace because I haven't been able to lift my head when I've deeply injured myself. If I do a lot of weight training and it's upper body and it's over my head, it'll aggravate it.
Yes.
And so there's a huge, so first, I swear by yoga.
Yeah.
I swear by yoga because for me, what it has done is, and I don't know that you know this, but at the basis of scoliosis, depending on where your curve is, the metaphysical cause, depending on if it's the masculine or the feminine side, is it's generally your parent pushing down on you.
Okay.
And so, so that was very, very interesting to find that out much later. I also had a autoimmune condition where I broke open. And similar to you, I was willing to try anything to make it change. And I was basically on my knees because I was in so much pain. And so because of that, you and I have similar overlap into what brought us into the healing path, right? I'm so grateful for the naturopath and the kinesiologist and the chiropractor and the acupuncturist from Germany that I found in San Francisco before I moved to Portland, that brought me back into healing awareness in my life. But I was much later than you. I was 38 at the time. But, progressively things started to build.
Yeah.
And I attribute yoga to allowing for more space in my body. And the realignment, right? Because with the scoliosis, you are essentially, leaning a particular way. So it teaches or trains the muscles to, similar to the back brace, which I actually didn't have a choice but to wear. My mom wouldn't have gone for that. So I wore it from 7th grade all the way till my junior year of high school when my doctor finally said, okay. Yeah, so I wore it for quite a while. The only time I was allowed to not have it on was cheerleading practice or gymnastics or something like that. So, yeah, so I very much identify. It's very awkward, especially in junior high, when someone bumps up against you and they're like, what is that?
Right.
Yeah, it's a delicate age to be wearing that. I remember, I got glasses, braces, and a back brace all in 1 year.
All the things.
And it came with neck gear, and I was just like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
Oh my God. Could I be any more of a dork?
Oh, talk about transformation all at once, right?
I have definitely had moments of transformation in my life, which is probably why I'm so great at helping other people with it. We both are. What a story. Never had a bulging disc. Definitely can recognize how much yoga can bring spacious relief, how other things can aggravate it. I still run. I'm not supposed to. But that yoga for me really is the way that I stay balanced. And I can tell a complete difference in my body when I don't do it.
Yeah.
And then it takes forever to break through, all of the pushing from the upper body. It takes a while to process all of the inflammation that happens from building all of the muscle.
Yeah.
And the tension.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's to my detriment if I don't do it. Because I kind of almost have to start all over again.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what a story. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing that. And I can only imagine how difficult of a journey that was, but so wonderful again that you met the right people who could help support you through it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you had a partner too that was really supportive of it too.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Amazing. Yeah.
We were only talking about your childhood so far.
Yes.
Okay, we'll skip ahead. Let's see. You answered that. What led you to be a co-founder of Yoga for Life here in Portland?
Yeah. It's a continuation of the story.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I interrupted you with mine.
No,
so keep going.
Not at all. It's a flow here. So yeah. So let's see. During the time, this healing process, this was around 2000. Around the time from like 2002 to 2008 was when I was experiencing this. And in 2005, I met my partner, Raj. And I told Raj that, hey, I'm going to yoga to kind of help rehabilitate my spine. Would you be interested in going? And Raj, unbeknownst to me, had kind of rolled his eyes of like, oh my goodness, I had left India because I had wanted to leave all of that behind. So Raj is originally from Kolkata, India, born and raised there, and then came to the United States to Walla Walla, Washington from Kolkata for college.
Wow.
So Raj and I met when we were working in the same company in 2005, and I had invited him to come, and he came to yoga. And interestingly, he came to Bikram Yoga, which was really kind of the only studio that was nearby where both of us lived. We lived in the Bellevue area. And when Raj walked into the studio, he saw, typically in Bikram studios, there are 3 photos at the front of the studio. There's Bikram, there's Bishnu Ghosh, and there's Paramhamsa Yogananda. And Bishnu Ghosh is from Kolkata. He owns or created Ghosh's Yoga College, Bishnu Ghosh's Yoga College, which is where Bikram, who was a weightlifter, learned yoga.
And then brought it back.
Yes. And Raj grew up probably about a 5-minute rickshaw drive away.
No.
And had also gone to Bishnu Ghosh's Yoga College when he was young to heal tonsillitis for himself. And so here he was in this environment, also where he's seeing Paramhamsa Yogananda, who is revered as a saint. He's the author of Autobiography of a Yogi.
Yep.
And seeing...
And you can actually pronounce his name. Yeah.
Seeing these two gentlemen, Vishnu Ghosh and Yogananda's photos, Raj instantly kind of felt like, oh my goodness, this is a little different. Why am I here? Kind of thing.
Huh.
This is really kind of going back to childhood roots for him. And so we practiced yoga together, and Raj and I had started dating, and eventually some interesting things transpired in that. But one of the things that transpired was Raj said, hey, what if we do a yoga teacher training program and think about eventually opening a yoga studio somewhere? And so clearly there was some kind of spark within him that I'm attracted back to my roots feeling. And I would have never, I was very shy, just introverted by nature, would have never considered going to a yoga training program and standing up in front of a room and teaching people. It would have just never been something that I thought that I could have done.
Yeah.
But we did that. We did our first yoga training in, I think it was either 2008 or 2009.
Was it in Bikram?
It was not in Bikram. It was through a yoga community called Yoga to the People.
Uh-huh.
And they were based out of New York, and they had a friend in the Seattle area, so they would fly back and forth between New York and Seattle to do the training. And the training was held at a local studio, so they had partnered with a local studio called Hot Yoga Inc. And so we had done our first training in Hatha yoga,
Okay.
and then also vinyasa. We had learned to teach those in our first training. And then we started teaching around the Seattle area around that time. And we had tried to open a yoga studio, but because of the 2008 economic situation, commercial real estate spaces were empty and available, but one of the things that commercial landlords did not want to do was lower their rent, because it was more expensive for them to lower their rent than it would have been to consider the space a tax write-off. And so they wouldn't lower the rent. They would keep the rent high. They wouldn't lower the rent for a starting business or a yoga studio to come in at a lower rent. And so
we had a tax write-off?
Yeah.
Sorry, my ex-husband is in commercial real estate.
Okay.
I just had a moment. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. Which this was an interesting thing for us, because here, honestly, like in our hearts, we were so passionate about wanting to offer yoga. And here I was, like I was feeling better and I wasn't having disc bulges anymore. And I wanted to offer this.
Amazing.
And then here we're kind of affronted with this very
blockage.
Dense material world kind of block of actually, no, we're not going to lower the rent for that kind of thing. And there could be hundreds, if not thousands of people in this area who would be interested in that, but we aren't going to let that happen. And so
Boo, commercial real estate.
And that was it was an invitation to just teach for a little while. And so we did that. We were like, okay, we're just going to teach for a little while and put the studio dream on hold, which was actually a blessing, as it usually is, because it gave us experience teaching and working with people one-on-one and all of that. So we were gathering this experience. And we had kind of given up on the opening a studio in the Seattle area. And so one day I was just randomly looking on Craigslist, and I found a yoga studio in Portland that was for sale. And so I sent the posting to Raj and I said, hey, would you be interested in going to Portland and just checking out the studio and seeing? And it was in Northeast Portland up on Fremont in Mississippi.
Uh-huh.
And so we came down to Portland and we met the studio owner and took a class, and the studio is such a beautiful little space. It was right next to a Grand Central bakery.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just a lovely, lovely little place. The owner had built it with so much heart. She had built it with architectural influence from the Southwest. So like curved walls and beautiful like earth painted tones in the facility. Really nice. And we kind of walked away and thought, well, how are we going to make this happen? We have full-time jobs in the Seattle area, and, we don't know anyone in Portland. How are we going to do this? So we kind of also put that on hold for a little bit. But the person who was conducting the sale through the owner reached back to us about, I don't know, probably 6 months later and said, hey, the owner has kind of changed the terms and conditions for selling. Would you be interested in coming down and speaking with us again? And so one thing after another, here we are in the middle of purchasing a small business in Portland. And we started the Yoga for Life studio in May of 2010. So yeah, such a kind of a timeline there of getting our teaching certificates and then also starting to open our own studio. And during that time, Raj and I also got married, and there's a separate story there, which hopefully I can tie back to family and family constellation there. But
yes.
Yeah, so that's how that kind of evolution of co-founder of Yoga for Life happened. It was almost like the universe was kind of pulling me in that direction. And to be honest, I never saw myself as a teacher in that way, but I absolutely love teaching. I love teaching yoga. I love teaching other classes and spiritual programs for people. And so, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you left everything in Seattle and you moved down here?
So for the first 2 years of running the business, we had a wonderful manager in the studio who had been the manager previously of the studio. And we had an existing group of teachers, but we also hired some new teachers. And the manager was able to run it, and we came down every weekend for like 2 years. It was a little nuts.
Such a dedication to make it happen, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And eventually, we had owned a home in the Seattle area because we were living and working there. Eventually, Raj had moved down to Portland, and I was staying up there, and he was starting to get a little bit more immersed in the community here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you actually split.
Yeah.
To make it happen, too.
Yeah.
Such a dedication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so during that time, Raj was kind of building up the studio, and I would come down. Eventually in 2013, I had left my corporate work and then came down and was doing yoga full time until really about 2016. So, yeah.
Wow. I moved here in 2014.
Okay.
So I remember that. I remember what Portland was like.
Yeah.
Those were the glory years of Portland.
For sure. Yeah. It really was a glorious time in Portland.
It really
Such
was.
a lovely place. Yeah.
Okay. So we can either talk about your story of marriage to Raj, or you can tie that into what is family constellation therapy and what drew you to it.
Okay. Yes.
I'm assuming they're connected.
Yes.
So
Yes. There's
that was
some
my next
connection
question.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Raj and I got engaged around 2007. We had made a trip to India, and we had gotten engaged at the Taj Mahal.
Wow.
And we had come back from that trip to India, and I was very excited to tell my parents, and they were not very excited. So they were very upset about, variety of things, different traditions, different family heritages, difference in how we were going to go about the wedding experience. Or
raising children, or any of their concerns.
All the things.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it turned into a really, really difficult family conversation between my family and Raj. Raj's parents were in India, lived in India.
Do they still live in India?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. His parents both passed away in 2021, but yes, they lived in India until
Both?
they passed. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So.
And there's a story there
I'm sure
too.
there's a story there too. Okay.
And so this conversation with my parents was not, I had never had a conversation so difficult and so kind of rupturing.
I picked that up so far.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about your childhood, it sounds blissful.
It was very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And my parents, to be honest, did everything to give my brother and I so many opportunities. And it all came from a place of love. And even this, I can say this now, not in the acuity of the situation, but even this very difficult conversation that we had came from a place of love.
Sure. Concern for their well-being, the well-being
For sure.
of you.
For sure.
No, I get that. Their heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what that led to was actually a disconnection between my family and I for the first time ever.
Ever.
I had never not been in communication with my family. I had never not been close to them. And that happened 2007. And so during this time of going through yoga training and all of that, I was not in contact with my parents.
Wow.
Which was, I can imagine for some people that's like, hey, that's great. I don't need to be in contact with my parents.
Oh, no, that was devastating for you.
For me, it was devastating.
Yeah. Because you got abandoned, essentially.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a sense of, this is the most exciting time for me. I'm getting engaged and,
And I can't share it.
Yeah, I was late 20s. And so I was very...
Oh, in your Saturn return too, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, 27. Yeah. And so, again, like the alignment of all of the beings, all of the souls, the stars in this particular time were very, very profound for me. And so during this time break, or this communication break with my parents, is when Raj and I really did a deep dive on yoga. Not only doing the training, starting the business, which I don't think that I would have done had I been in contact with my parents, because they are a bit risk averse. And this to me was a big risk.
Yes.
Opening a business in a different city and all of that.
Yeah, it was a huge dedication, as I said.
Yeah.
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 And a lot of energy.
And a lot of energy. And so there was a sense of putting our energy into this. And what was interesting about that, you had mentioned earlier in our conversation the word apathy about your situation. Apathy and perhaps victimization. And when we go through a very traumatic experience, as I'm sure you know, there is, emotions get caught in our body.
Yes.
Yeah, emotions are energy in motion, and humans are really good at masking our emotions. Animals, not so much, which is one of the reasons why we love animals so much, is because they're very transparent in that. But those emotions get caught in our body. And as we started to deepen our yoga studies and practice, we learned about something a framework that really kind of turned on the light bulb for us in terms of both, I want to tie in Family Constellation a little bit, but both like full body, full being healing. And that framework and that concept is what's called the Maya Kosha. I'm not sure if you've heard of this term before. Okay. Maya means illusion, and Kosha means shell or layer or sheath. And in the Vedic philosophy, in the Hindu philosophy, there are 5 layers to our being, 5 Maya Kosha, Pancha Maya Kosha. And in the Buddhist school of thought, there are 7 layers to our being, Sapta Mayakosha, 7 Mayakosha. And so those 5 layers of our being are our physical body, so all of the material stuff, all of the matter. Then there's that's called the Annamaya Kosha. The second layer to our being is what's called the Pranamaya Kosha, or our energetic body. And our energetic body is affected by our Manomaya Kosha, which is our psychic emotional shell. So what our thoughts and emotions are affect our energy. So the energy of our thoughts and emotion actually are permeated through our energy body. Then there's what's called the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is the intellectual layer of our being. So this is the 4th layer, or the 4th illusory shell of our being. The Vijnanamaya Kosha is what's called the layer of the intellect. And sometimes we can think of that as the intellect of the mind. In some ways it's intellect of the mind, but I like to think of it as cellular intelligence. So our cells and our whole body is functioning intelligently in a structural way to keep us in a homeostasis, in a sense of equilibrium and balance within our body, and then also within our external environment. So our microcosm of our body and our macrocosm of the external world. And then the 5th layer is what's called the Anandamaya Kosha, which is, it's kind of perhaps poorly translated as the bliss layer. But what it really, the essence of it is that within us which is calm and peaceful and a neutral sense of joy. So we all have this very calm, neutral sense of joy that is very deep within us, that when we are not caught up in our mind and our emotions are not fluctuating around us and our body is not speaking to us in a way of pain or discomfort, that we can be in this very joyous, blissful space. So we came across this teaching through Andrei Lapa, Guruji Andrei Lapa, who is a Russian-Ukrainian physicist, and he has created what's called universal yoga. So we met Andrei Lapa in 2013, so this really kind of catapulted our yoga journey to deepen even more. But I want to tie this back to the word that you had used, apathy about things and emotions. And so the circumstance with my parents and kind of the devastation and the sadness of that circumstance, all of that is still stored in your body until you really release it. Releasing it in the sense of coming to a sense of neutrality and deep peace and calm within your heart about that circumstance. And boy, that process is not done through the mind.
No, it is not.
Like you can think your way through.
You can understand it logically that that's something that
For
should
sure.
be done.
For sure.
Like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
For sure.
Yeah.
But unless your body and your emotions, your true emotions and your energy is behind that,
Yep.
it will remain with you.
Yes.
And so this level of pain still remains in the body.
Yes.
And while I wasn't having disc bulges during this time, I wasn't in that like highly acute stage, I still had back pain. And I still to this day will have flare-ups of back pain, but not like what I was previously having, not anything close to what I was previously experiencing. And so in meeting Guruji Andrei Lapa in 2013, it just opened up. Andrei Lapa has his own incredible stories. He lives in a monastery in Kathmandu now and teaches all over Asia universal yoga. But meeting this man changed our lives significantly.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you meet someone like that who really pushes you to grow because they want you to, because they love you, like in a human to human way, that feels different than like a parent love,
Yes.
kind of pushing you to grow. Like there's something that's too close with parents in that way. But here was a man who would see your flaws and push those boundaries, which then funnels you into, okay, how do I heal those things now? And in doing that, a door opened to a teacher who teaches family constellation.
Okay.
So arriving at Family Constellation through that push of Guruji Andre Lapa to heal the things that are still holding you back from really the purpose of yoga, which is self-realization. And in that, I met a teacher, Susan Pullen.
Okay, I've heard of her.
Yes. Susan lives in the Seattle area. And the two remaining Maya kosha are related to karma and consciousness. And karma is related to what we're bringing into, not only what we're generating in this lifetime, but what we're also bringing into this lifetime from previous lifetimes. And the in family constellation, what this is referred to is entanglement. And quantum physics is also coming to describe this as, we get entangled with the people who we have thoughts and emotions with just as much as we would if we have a physical touch with that person. So the Karma Maya kosha and the Chitta Maya kosha are the remaining two Maya kosha, according to the Buddhist philosophy. And Guruji Andre Lapa teaches those as well.
What's the Chitra?
Chitta Maya kosha. It's consciousness, the shell of consciousness. Okay. And that is, in essence, what we all are, is consciousness. We've just taken a material form with all the things. The karma and all the layers. So, So that led me to Susan and her work with Family Constellation. And I really am blessed to have kind of the foundation with yoga to understand karma and the concepts of karma, to and have that perspective in the sense of working with constellation and inherited family trauma and all of those kinds of things. So,
So tell us more about what Family Constellation Therapy is.
Thank you. Thank you for stopping me and asking that question.
No, you're fine. That's my job. So
this is Family Constellation, is I consider it definitely a divine gift. And how it has come to be described and taught in Europe and the West is by way of actually the Zulu tribe in South Africa.
Did not know that.
Yes. So constellation is actually an indigenous process that a gentleman by the name of Bert Hellinger, who is German, he lived in South Africa. And he was actually a missionary in South Africa, and he talks about how his goal was to teach the South Africans kind of the ways of Christianity, but what he experienced in South Africa was being taught the ways of life and the ways of spirit. And in essence, what the practice is that in the indigenous communities in the Zulu tribes, as I understand it, there are wise elders in the community who, if someone in the community is having a problem across one of these Maya kosha, now Maya kosha is entirely a Vedic, Hindu, and Buddhist concept, so I'm not conflating the two. But how I think of it is if someone is having a physical problem, an energy problem, a mental emotional problem, intellectual, kind of cellular, you could even call it maybe inherited or genetic problem, then that person goes to the elder in the community and says, I'm experiencing this, and I would like to resolve that. And so the elder in the community very intuitively listens to the essence of that person, and the words that they're saying, their energy, their emotions, their being. They're deeply listening to them to understand what may be the source of this pain in this person's circumstance. And what they would do is what's called throwing the bones. I assume this is because they would have kind of, animal bones that from what they had been cooking or whatever. So those had been kind of left in the community to practice with. And they would assign, through their intention, just as quantum physics is telling us now, through their intention, they assign a value to an object. The object in this community was bones at the time. So, for example, they would hear someone say, I am really struggling with anxiety. And the wise elder would listen, ask questions, and try to understand more, like, where's this coming from? Does this feel like yours? How long have you been experiencing it? Where in your body do you notice it? And as that person is telling the wise elder their story, the wise elder is listening for all of their own intuitive senses about what could be happening for this person. And they will assign values to those bones. And then the community gathers together and they participate together as a group to help this person resolve this by what's called representing that particular representative. So, for example, I could have an object for anxiety, and I could have an object for, let's say, for this person who's come to the wise elder. And I put these two objects out, and I have this person go stand next to the representative or the bone for anxiety. And this person would say, I can't breathe, I'm feeling these sensations in my body, I need to step away. And so what the wise elder will do is continue to see how this circumstance develops, and then bring in different representatives, either through the family lineage or through some sort of divine help, whether that's a guardian angel, whether it's a healed ancestor, whether it's an animal ally of the spirits, a plant ally for this person, to help that person come to a space of where they can feel a sense of peace, deep peace and calm, that same deep peace and calm that I was mentioning in the Anandamaya Kosha. And so they'll work through this process together, feeling in their body, feeling as they move closer to a representative or they move further away. They will say certain very short phrases to shift the energy between these representatives. And the whole intention of this circle or the family constellation session is to bring a sense of completeness and deep peace to this person who is struggling with whatever they're struggling with. And so the person who has been trained, the wise elder who's been trained in constellation, is their purpose and their goal is to be a vessel for which they can gently kind of guide deep peace and healing into this person's energy. Yeah.
So I guess my question is what would a session look like? Because you've explained it from the origins, but it sounds like a combination of energy work, but also has a basis lightly in science, right? In
Yes.
psychology, right?
For sure. Yeah, you said it. Yeah, there are, so when Bert Hellinger brought this back to to Germany, he developed a lot of teaching and schooling in Germany, and then a lot of that has spread actually through Latin America and is starting to come up through the United States.
That's how I heard about it. I was supposed to go down to like Colombia or
Yes.
something for a teacher, and I was like, can't I just find somebody here?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of it has spread throughout Europe and through Latin America.
Okay.
And in doing so, there has been interesting also indigenous influences that come in. So some shamanistic influences and some psychological influences. And so how it works in a session, and often how I will work with people one-on-one, is I have a list of questions that I come to a session with. But as I start asking those questions, I'm really listening, deeply listening for what someone is sharing with me. I'm listening for words that may not feel like their own. I'm listening for when they take a deep breath. I'm listening for when an emotion is held back. And so they may be telling me a story about, I'm really trying to resolve a difficult relationship with my mother. But what I'm really hearing is that there may be an entanglement between the grandmother and the mother, and that the grandmother was never able to truly provide love to the mother, so the mother wasn't available to provide love to their child.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
You come at it from a different perspective. I do something similar, but ultimately, that is very interesting to me. So essentially, you're looking at all of how ancestral trauma is handed down.
Yes. And it can be ancestral trauma from that kind of karma Manuchehri perspective, or even working with people who the karmic component is not, or the ancestral component is not a factor for them. It's something that has happened in this lifetime that is still entangled.
Yeah.
And by entangled, I mean thoughts and emotions are creating an energetic hook into another person, basically. Yeah.
And since we were talking about that, maybe you can tie that in with, how does your body tell you?
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pain is obviously the loudest, like, voice.
You can't do anything about it at that point.
Yeah.
You have to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very quiet whispers before.
It was very quiet whispers.
Yeah,
like,
that you weren't listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's definitely no shame in not listening to. I think sometimes people feel a sense of a shame of that.
I don't feel shame. I'm just saying, like, I've done it.
Same.
Multiple times.
Same. Yeah. And I think that we are ready to address it when we're really ready to address it.
I think we also have to be in a place of stability in our lives for healing to happen. And like you said, even though your family wasn't involved with you for those years, you were in a place of stability in your relationship and being fully supported. And so you could focus on this, right? You could focus on all of your energy, taking all of your energy that you would be putting in other areas, and you could focus on this. Or, you know, if you're going through a crisis, a healing crisis, such as the bulges in your bulging disc, that's the only thing that you can focus on. But your family kind of gathered around you to help support you in that healing spot. And I feel that healing gets stuck because a lot of times, especially now, people are in crisis.
Yeah. Yes.
And they don't have the space or the neutrality or the support to be able to do the work.
Yeah.
Because they're just trying to make it day to day.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And sometimes I was just having this conversation with my mom today, actually. So obviously
it's fast
forward. Yeah. And in that it can be really painful to kind of lift up that proverbial rock and look under it.
For sure.
And it's all of the dirt around the rock and all of the microorganisms that have kind of filled in the space underneath the rock, they're all comfortable in that place. And so there's a level of comfort in staying in the pain until the pain actually becomes so much that you must do something about it. And so, yeah, just starting to lift up that rock and create some movement in the soil is the first step. And
disturbing the ground.
Yeah, the little microcosm that's happening right there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You also do, oh my God, and help me pronounce it, is Feldenkrais, right?
I don't do Feldenkrais, but I have experienced Feldenkrais.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yes.
Because that in itself is a whole other experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was one of the tools. So along the journey of kind of physical therapy and yoga, there was also Feldenkrais and Rolfing and Reiki and deep massage and all of those practices. And Feldenkrais was about, my experience with the practitioner was about slow movement in the body to make those movements more welcome again in the body. So slowly kind of releasing the muscular tissue, the fascia, the holding, which is also the protecting, which is also what yoga asana is so good for. Physical yoga practice is so good for. So my experience in being a recipient of Feldenkrais was just slow movements of the spine and deep release. And it kind of felt like, what exactly am I doing here right now? But it was big movements, because that was actually big to help to start to release some of that trauma. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Let's scoot forward, because we've already been talking for an hour. Okay. Let's talk about love for a minute.
Okay.
How has your understanding of love evolved through your life and work?
Oh, what a good question. I don't know if I have words to describe that. Yeah. Yeah. I think, there's a bit of a story there too.
Okay.
I guess maybe what I will say is that love to me over time is in the little consistent efforts. It's not the big, grandiose, hormonal endorphin, oxytocin shift. It's in the little actions and behaviors that are demonstrated both in ourselves and in others, if we choose to have a partner, if we don't choose to have a partner. And yeah, it's in little actions, it's in presence, true presence, like really deeply listening to someone can be one of the greatest gifts of love, and not acting like you're doing it. You know, we are so wise. We know when someone is acting deep listening versus actually deep listening.
We can feel it.
We can feel it. And those are the micro moments of love. And over time, those micro moments build into the profundity of what I think love can be. Yeah. I don't have words to describe it. It is just, to love and to experience love is just one of the greatest experiences in the human experience.
I agree.
And pets, we talked about pets a little bit, and animals, they are just so giving in that. They're just like, please take more and more. and I'll give you more. And can I give you more? Whether it's biscuits or like licking your face or like nuzzling a nose or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, their presence and acknowledgement that they're seeing you.
Yep.
Yeah. Those little things over a long time is what builds. Yeah. Yeah.
What has been your greatest lesson in love?
I think what comes to me is getting out of the way and maybe getting out of the way of what my expectations are about it in order to just receive it and acknowledge it when I see it. Yeah. Yeah, getting out of the way. Yeah.
Is there a lesson in love and relationships you wish you had learned earlier?
No. What comes to me is that it's all in divine timing. And I think I just wasn't ready earlier. I didn't have the experiences that I needed in this life experience. I wasn't able to recognize it until I was able to recognize it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like one of my favorite bumper stickers of all time is that it says, timing is always divine.
Yeah.
And I just think of that a lot, in that sometimes we try to force things in a linear time frame.
Totally.
But we just can't. We're not ready. Also the phrase, like, you're not ready, young Padawan, kind of thing, you know, like you don't know yet how to handle that truth, kind of thing. Yeah.
I always tell people the universe doesn't say no. It says not yet.
Yeah.
Or maybe try
Yes.
again.
Yes.
Or
right.
you're getting close.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, in its benevolence, it's not trying to hold things from you. It's already out there. You have to be ready to meet it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's already out there in a different, in a different reality. You just have to energetically match it and believe that it's true.
Very well said. This reminds me of something in yoga too, that when we move through those blockages in like the mental and emotional layer, we create more space, more energetic space.
Yes.
And when we create more energetic space, then the light can shine in a little bit more. Light shines in lighter places. It doesn't shine in denser places. So when there's a lot of density in a lot of thought, a lot of heavy emotion, then that there isn't kind of space for that, the graciousness and the benevolence of love to really come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why we get cracked open.
Oh, totally. And there's that, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And there's, you are so ready.
Well, are you ever ready to be cracked open?
Not in the mind. The mind is like, no, I'm never on board for that, because I want to keep you safe. And yeah.
Yeah, this is way too hard. I wasn't prepared.
Right.
Let's see. You covered a lot of this, so let me just scan over. Okay, if you could go back in time, what's one thing that you would change about your life?
This is an interesting one. I'm noticing like I'm not ready and you are ready at the same time kind of thing. I think in many ways I would have started doing the work that I'm doing now much earlier. And I have always wanted to do this work. I've always wanted to work with people one-on-one. I've always wanted to just be there with people as they're moving through difficult things and remind them that you're so amazing. You're so incredible, and you're doing such a good job. And my mind just always was in the game of like, you're not ready, you've not been trained enough. You know, there was a lot of fear there.
Probably some imposter syndrome.
For sure. Lots of societal conditioning around that. Yeah. And I think listening to my heart, I would have done that a lot sooner. And now it's like, this is a treasure chest of information right here that, it's going to guide me in the place that is right for me. So,
Well, you grew into that.
Well said.
That wasn't in the corporate world.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
I was in the corporate world too, which is how I know.
Yes.
Until I was broken open.
And I also bless that experience too, because it's very much like that environment taught me a lot of structure. It's taught me a lot of, you know, how I engage with Google and running a business.
It is very much informative of running a business.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I kind of laugh this off all the time, but when I meet new people that are in the business world or whatever, they kind of automatically assume that I don't have any marketing experience or didn't have, and it's like, no. I mean, I understand that spiritual people and healers tend to be a little bit more in their upper body chakras in general, but yes, not to make assumptions. I feel like it was very informative of that.
Yes, very informative. It helps very much for people who are more spiritually inclined to kind of be more grounded and centered. Yeah, particularly because we live in a very material-based, dense environment where we're communicating like physical body to physical body, not necessarily telepathically for many of us. But but that's a separate story for a different time.
It is. Okay, let's see. You answered that. How can we incorporate more love into our lives on a daily basis?
Oh my goodness. Self-love and forgiveness first, kind of above all. And I try to rephrase self-love in a sense of soul love. So don't think of it as like yourself, as in like I'm loving on Kelly. Think of it as like I'm loving on my soul. And my soul did this thing that I don't love so much, but it was trying. Or my soul did this thing that I absolutely love, and yay for that. So I think of the more we can encourage loving ourselves from that deep calm place within, not from the mind, then the more we reverberate that energy into our mental and emotional layers, which then helps clear out some of our energy. So self-love on a soul love level, I think, is very, very important for people.
I like the distinction there.
Yeah. I think so often it feels different.
Yeah.
I think so often we think of self-love from a very egoic perspective, but that's not the essence of it.
Well, it certainly isn't baths and candles.
Yes. Yeah.
Although those help.
Yes. Great for the physical body. The emotional body is not so much like, I'm still not going to let go of those things. So,
what advice would you give someone struggling to find self-love or heal from a difficult experience?
The phrase that comes to me is one step at a time, little bird. I think as people, I think in our culture sometimes we think of things need to happen very fast. Like, I'm going to take a pill and I'm going to be 100% cured. I'm going to get rich tomorrow. I'm going to feel 100% tomorrow. I'm just going to check this off my list and be done. But in my experience, it's one small step at a time that contributes to getting to that place. Just like little actions contribute to like a massive amount of love. And as you're taking those little steps, just honoring each step as it comes. Because in generating more judgment around the little steps, we're getting caught up in the fact that we're actually on a much bigger journey towards self-love, towards something bigger. So I hope that made sense.
Yes.
But one step at a time, little bird, is what I feel like saying.
Of course it made sense. Yeah. And sometimes it's one little step forward and 2 steps back.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, but the effort of continuing to make progress towards what it is that you're trying to create. Yes.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a grandfather figure who had said, if you're not using your eraser, you're not learning. And I love that because
I love that.
Yes. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Just use your eraser and then do it again. And it's okay.
I love that. I'm going to tell my daughter that.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. And thank you, grandfather, for sharing that. Yeah.
What's the best lesson you've ever learned in life?
It has to be letting go. Yeah. And that's a tough one.
And why do you think that is? I mean, I know from my perspective. Why do you think that has been your biggest lesson? Because it's so hard to do?
Yeah. Maybe because it's so hard to do. I very much believe in, I get little humorous notes sometimes, and the Sting song, "We Are Spirits in a Material World," kind of comes to mind, that jingle. It can be so hard because we're conditioned in a certain way to really believe that material form is all there is and all that has the answers. And so when we think of ourselves in that way, we get stuck in the I must figure it all out. But instead, letting go actually lets the possibility in. Letting go makes space, as I said earlier. Letting go creates an inner spaciousness that lets the light come in. But because we just have from, it's to no fault of anyone, but it's just in this material aspect of things, in this material world, we see ourselves as the one who must solve it all. But in reality, it's actually partnering with the divine in whatever way.
Yes.
Yeah, the divine, the universe, spirit, God, whatever that is.
Co-conspiring.
Co-conspiring, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Matching your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell people all the time. Actually, I just said this yesterday in my MA program when we were in small groups. I said, my ego has all kinds of ideas for how this could happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But really taking a step back and allowing more information to come through.
Yes, more information to come through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And releasing the outcome, because sometimes the universe has a much better plan than my little ego brain has come up with.
For sure.
And I'm like a tantrum. No, that's not how I wanted it. And a lot of times we can't see the bigger picture.
Right. So well said.
We can't see that something else is just right outside the door. And if we were just to let go of that door frame and walk through.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Or let go of the stranglehold we have.
Yes. This is bringing up for me, there's a book called 7.5 Secrets of the Brain, and it's written by a neuroscientist, Lisa Feldman Barrett. And in this book, she summarizes that the brain is actually meant to budget for our body to keep us safe.
Yes.
In terms of energy, glucose, all of the things that the brain...
navigating your experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So the brain is actually shortcutting all of the noise in order for us to budget for our body to stay safe. And in our brain thinking through things, it's still in that budgeting process. Mm-hmm. But having a deeper connection to whatever people may want to call it, but having a deeper connection to the divine and all that is around us is not accessible to the brain.
No.
And so I love thinking about
disconnect.
That. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It actually keeps us separate. Mm-hmm. It keeps us separate from the possibility. I love what you said, walking through the door frame and seeing the expansiveness that's on the other side of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the brain wants to keep us in the doorway because it's budgeting that, oh, I have this. It's calculating so many magnificent things and also not reaching into what is actually possible. So.
Well, that's our heart space.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's the difference between the heart and the mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The heart is way more passionate.
Yes. Yes.
And can allow for possibility.
Yeah. It's a dreamer. It's a total dreamer.
Yes, it is. And a romantic.
Yeah.
What do you want people to remember most about your work and your impact?
It's about themselves. I just want them to remember that I feel a little emotional about it, but I feel like for people to just remember that they are love. You know, everybody is love. And that is profound. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard to get there when you're in a really difficult place. It's hard to get there.
It is. It's hard to stay there. I would agree, but also say it's hard to stay there. It's hard to stay open.
It's hard to stay open when so many influences don't want us to.
Or when you've been hurt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the heart chakra wants to shut it down.
Yeah, the whole body wants, like a sea anemone. Yeah, contraction. Mm-hmm. But I think I truly just want people to remember that they are love and that they are loved. Yeah. And wherever you need to go to get that, whether it's music or a pet or looking at the sun or nature or whatever it is, that I think it's that. Yeah.
I knew you were going to have some great.
It's true. Yeah. It's true.
I knew you were going to have something great to say.
Just holding someone's hand and just being present to remind them that they're that. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. Partnering them.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to leave it there. I don't know if we can top that. That's like you made me emotional.
Oh. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for this opportunity, and
you're welcome.
Letting me share my story. And
of course.
I feel like I've talked a lot.
That was the point.
Okay.
The point was to get to know you because I knew that you had wisdom to share. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting this podcast. Your presence here means the world to me, and I'm truly grateful for your time and energy. If this conversation resonated with you or sparked any questions, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from each of you. Your insights, experiences, and curiosities always enrich this space. It's important to remember that trauma, often unseen and unacknowledged, can keep us from living fully in our joy. Through my intuitive healing process, I help release the weight of generational trauma, empowering you to reconnect with your true self and experience life in greater harmony. If you feel called to explore this deeper work, I invite you to book a one-on-one intuitive session or even embark on a personalized journey with the Phoenix Immersion, a 2-day retreat designed to support profound transformation. You can find all the details below. For those who've liked, subscribed, or left comments already, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your engagement means everything, and I'm deeply grateful for the connection we're building in this community. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I'm excited for all the healing and transformation we'll continue to explore together. As always, I'm forever grateful for you, and I cannot wait to see what unfolds next. Take care, and until next time.